If you enjoy this video, consider supporting us on Patreon for just $5 a month. Click on the card in the upper right-hand corner for more information. Hey guys, this is Julian of Julian Gray Media. This is the reboot of the Julian Gray Podcast with my new co-host here, Malcolm Hawks. He's like one of my oldest friends, my best friend, and we oftentimes hang out and just talk for hours on end. So I thought we might as well start recording these conversations because they're pretty relevant to music and stuff. So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Malcolm Hawks. I'm also from Bowie, Maryland, as you would assume. I do music under the name Tatami. I do kind of like lo-fi hip-hop, rock, normal hip-hop, I guess.
Yeah.
I sing in Japanese sometimes, and yeah, my elevator pitch is non-existent. So yeah.
It's really cool, actually.
I do music.
He writes a lot of stuff in Japanese. That's a big focus of yours, right? Like,
Yeah. I try to bring in as much Japanese as humanly possible into my stuff, whether it be samples or like me singing. And I'm releasing like a full Japanese project sometime soon.
it's so cool.
Yeah.
And you guys can check him out like on Spotify and Apple Music and stuff to tell me.
Yeah.
So the first topic we had to discuss today was what was it?
It was upbringing.
Yeah, absolutely. I
yeah.
guess that kind of goes along with our introduction here. We both grew up in Bowie, Maryland. It's a suburb of Washington, D.C., somewhere between like Annapolis and D.C., I guess.
Everybody always asks me, and I don't know what to tell them because nobody knows what Bowie is.
Yeah, you kind of just rounded off to D.C.
Yeah, I actually met a guy yesterday that knew where Bowie was.
Really?
And I was like, he was like, yeah, I'm from Silver Spring. And I was like,
there you go.
I was like, no,
I think people from Maryland know where Bowie is, but people who are not from Maryland have no idea.
Yeah, no, but even people who are from Maryland, they were just in Baltimore probably. So it's like they still don't really know where it is. Like Bowie's like its own like separate thing from the rest of Maryland almost.
Yeah, and if you're from like I guess the DMV as we call it, then you know where Bowie is.
Yeah,
DMV by the way is like this crazy cultural like how do you
like
even describe
swamp.
it? We have like all of this like very particular slang. We kind of introduce a lot of slang to like modern culture.
No, for sure. There's this YouTuber. I had sent you a video of it. Crank Lucas. He's like a really big YouTuber. He does like a lot of stuff like Kendrick Lamar's like producer or some crazy stuff like that. And he did this one video and he was like, "Oh, you jai like Kirk and Mo." Like I was like,
God.
"Whoa!" I was like, "That's crazy." And I looked into it, and he's from Upper Marlboro.
Man.
like it's very easy to tell when someone's from Maryland because I think like a lot of stuff in like LA and like a lot of other places, like for the most part, the slang like everybody kind of uses to some degree.
Yeah.
Like you do not hear DMV slang outside of DMV.
It's totally like a thing for the area.
Yeah.
And people that visit the area are often like clueless to.
They have no clue. That's why we don't really do it outside of being home. Yeah. Because nobody would know what we're talking about. Like Jai, like Mo, Kirkin, like all that stuff.
We have so many words that like
nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody even knows.
Nobody knows.
It happens to me often here, like living in LA. Like since we've moved here, it's like people don't understand half the things sometimes when you say it in a conversation.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I went to school in North Carolina, I still was so Maryland that nobody knew what I was saying a lot of the time. And so I started making up stuff to trick people. Like I made
That's
up
hilarious.
I made up a bag of cherries. I called somebody that I was like, "You're a bag of cherries," and he was like, "What does that mean?" I'm just like, "You don't want to know." Like
then they like unironically start using it.
Too. Yeah. So it's just like, but that's something that like is very jarring coming from. I mean, I'm sure like Southern because I have like a slight Southern twang too because of my mom. I realize I have. So
I think I do too.
Yeah. So a lot of people assume I'm from the South.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Like especially if you visit northern cities. Yeah. Like New York.
Yeah.
People will assume you're like very Southern, but we're not. Like we're like moderately Southern, if that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Obviously now we're Southern California.
Yeah.
Very different type of Southern, I guess.
Completely different vibe here. Like for sure. I don't think there's any like particular phrases from Like
Yeah.
from here. I mean, obviously like Fool is a big one, but
Fool.
like I know
Hella. That's more of a West Coast in general.
Something I realized, I don't know if it's a Hispanic thing or a California thing, but I can't describe, but it's like I already did something. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like kind of like it's like you're like, hey, are you almost at the club? It's like, oh yeah, I'm already there. Like I'm already almost there or something like that. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a past like current. It's I can't explain it, but like I hear it a lot. I don't know how popular that is here, but
Interesting. Yeah, no, there's definitely a handful.
Yeah,
surfer
no, like yeah,
slang. Yeah, exactly. That sort of stuff.
It's like no, like yeah. It's like, so you mean yeah? It's like no, like yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's complicated and annoying. But.
Yeah, I've definitely heard like surfer slang kind of stuff. I can't think of an example right now, but like by the beach especially.
Yeah. I'm not around too many people like that, but we're trailing off. Anyway.
Yeah, why don't we talk about our musical upbringing a bit? Yeah. We used to be in a duo of sorts, like in middle school, high school.
Yeah, past is present.
Yeah. I wonder if you can still find that online.
Probably not.
I hope not.
I don't think you could. I think I might have deleted my old SoundCloud even too, but past is present. That name just came from the fact that like I did mainly analog stuff, and then you did electronic.
Very like digital centric, and I think we've pretty much maintained that with a small amount of variance, but even today it's very. You're more the analog, and I'm more of like the digital.
For sure, but I've been doing a lot more like in computer stuff now. I pick up my guitar like once a month now.
Right.
So
and I guess I do a little bit more analog stuff too, but I think fundamentally that is like our DNA.
Pretty much. I mean, but I think the band in general is kind of like what we've kind of come to, because even though like I was strictly analog and you were like strictly electronic and stuff like that, like I feel like now
it's more nuanced.
Now I feel like it's more like each of us are more past is present, where like, you know, like you do a lot more analog stuff in yours and I do a lot more.
That was a really interesting era. I wonder if like I can find some tracks maybe for another episode coming up soon.
I mean, does the jazz one count? Because
I think so.
Because that's something I'd like to.
It's definitely like point. It's not like
either
to our par now. I don't know. Like the music is cool, but I think like production wise,
wise, yeah. No, I think if we had that same chord progression now or something, I think we would take it in completely different routes.
Right.
But I do think overall, considering that we made that when we're like 17, I think that's still a song that I think holds up. It's not as good as our stuff now, but I could still be like...
There's a handful that I would say.
We fixed like the mixing and mastering and just like maybe added a little things here and there. Like I think it could be something that we could release and it wouldn't sound too jarring.
And also it's like...
besides genre, obviously.
I think that's just... I think it's a big... It's a very powerful and profound thing to go back and revisit your old music.
For sure.
I did a video on the channel like less than... maybe like 2 years ago now, where I revisited my first stuff that I ever did. Yeah, you guys can find on YouTube. You can find that in the description. But yeah, it was a very profound thing. Is I can hear a lot of like the DNA that my stuff has now, in that stuff. But obviously the production is very different. I guess it's the same for you too.
Yeah, no, like, I mean like my old stuff, like I still kind of have that like. Lo-fi, like I'm still trying to figure it out type aesthetic now, but now it's more of an aesthetic, while as then it was very much like I was like I didn't have any sort of treating in my room, or I didn't know how to find the right spots, so I would like put a mic between my legs and have like pillows around, or like record it under a blanket. Like that's what I used to do now, but now I make sure I'm in more dead spaces, or I just keep that aesthetic because that's what I like. Right. Before, I was trying to make it sound professional and not sound lo-fi.
Right.
That's
kind of a cool aesthetic in of itself now. Like with the rise of lo-fi hip-hop and lo-fi house music and stuff, it's like that nostalgia for that era of lo-fi.
Yeah, I think...
more nostalgia for like the early 90s, late 80s.
I think we... are getting more and more obsessed with real things, which is why like a lot of like industry plants we don't really care for as much anymore. Like we're kind of fishing those out and stuff like that.
Yeah, because we can see through it now. Like there's so many when back in the day when you had like a label and you had like 5 artists that were like the big ones and they would invest all this money into. You didn't have the contrast of like this is a real artist and this isn't. But in today's climate, it's like we have anyone can be an artist.
Exactly.
And you can see when somebody's legit and genuine, and you can see when somebody's not.
Yeah.
Granted, there's a few plants that I'm sure are probably plants we don't even know. But,
yeah, exactly.
But for the most part, you know.
Yeah, and I think like with the rise of social media, because we can see their personalities on Instagram or Twitter, and then you got like people like, for example, like Kenny Beats is a weird example, but an example I thought of, which is he's a producer, and most people don't think about producers. They don't really like care about producers, but he does these very comedic videos every week with rappers and works for them. And like now we're just like, wow, I like your beats more because I know who you are. Or, like people like Kuko, like he doesn't try to be this amazing writer or amazing producer or anything like that. He just kind of puts out music, and we, you know.
I think that genuineness is like a huge thing for like artists like Porter Robinson too.
Yes.
Whereas like you can tell that they're very true to what they want to release, and they're making music that they enjoy. I think that what makes a really prolific artist too.
I think more on the Porter Robinson thing. I think what really pushes him forward is that like as you said, he's very genuine. He's almost like not almost he is very lo-fi in a lot of the stuff he puts out, and that's like unheard of in the electronic scene. Like especially somebody that's big like him. Like you won't hear like a scruffy sounding song from Skrillex or from you know, in
different ways, I guess.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, you wouldn't hear a song where you hear background noise or you hear the metronome.
Right.
You
like the new Porter track.
Or that like the bass is like a little bit too thin, or like that like the sample like the high end is boosted to hell or whatever. Like he very much plays with like almost an analog type feel for something that's very synthesized.
I think even more than that, it's when you're not afraid to do whatever you want to do outside of what your expectations are. Yeah. Like, for example, there's a ton of artists like that where they'll make, especially in electronic music, I know this isn't super applicable to like what you do, but like artists like deadmau5 or Skrillex or what have you, they're artists that exist with their own sound, but they don't have a genre. And I think Porter's like that too, where there's no, you can try to shoehorn them into a thing, but then they immediately break out of it.
Yeah, because like he made, what's it called, like Complextro or something?
Porter kind of coined that term back in 2011 or 12.
Because I know he did that, but now he doesn't
like
do
Zed type stuff.
Exactly. Oh yeah, Zed did what?
The
Zed
same stuff. Zed, Porter, they were in like the same circle.
Yeah, but I feel like Zed went the opposite way. Like I feel like Zed was very experimental and had like a couple hits, but now he's just all about hits almost now.
Which I mean, in and of itself is cool.
Which is fine. Yeah, I think that's great. But like somebody like Porter, I feel like he's always pushed it. Like even when he went into like virtual self, I mean, like he's very much mimicking something, right? But the fact that he can pull off that PS2 like you know DDR like Metal Gear Solid or whatever have you sound is crazy. That's you have that
and
ability
do it like well,
and then he goes to his normal stuff and it's like it sounds like it could be in an anime or something, right? And it could be played in like a stadium or whatever. Like it, like his stuff is just constantly evolving, and I really appreciate it about him. And I don't even like electronic music like that.
Sure,
like, it's really just like you, Muramasa,
deadmau5, Toki Monster,
deadmau5 here and there. And there's like a couple other ones, but it's like I really don't listen to electronic music for like me to like really like somebody in that scene, like that you have to be doing something that I see is like
that's insane. Kind of like also why I was interested in having you as like a co-host, because it's a interesting dynamic of a musician outside of that world as well as an electronic musician, you know, talking about these topics from different points of view, because it is very different, but it is also very similar. Yeah,
in a lot of ways. I mean, like I find myself locked inside of a program, not even touching an instrument a lot of the time. So I understand what that's like for sure. And like I get curious about synthesizers all the time.
There's definitely like the genre tropes and stuff that is very specific to a genre. Like electronic music performance, for example, is very like one guy in a CDJ or a laptop. Yeah. Whereas like more alternative stuff like what you're doing or like hip hop or what have you is more involved in performance.
For sure.
So it's like two different views on that same sort of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I kind of want to go into the more electronic scene too, because I was talking to somebody the other day, and it made me realize, like, I was like, why don't I start doing the more electronic scene? Because lo-fi is such a thing now.
Yeah.
That like I'm just like, why don't I just go to like events where like, or just figure out if there's any events that would want lo-fi artists and just go there, because I mean, if anything, like probably 90% of the people that listen to me know me for my lo-fi.
Lo-fi is in such an interesting spot because it's halfway to like retro synthwave, like electronic, but it's also halfway to like boom bap.
Yeah.
So it's like in that middle ground between electronic and
I mean, because
hip hop.
It started off of the heels of Jay Dilla and New Job.
Right.
That's why it was created. I mean, like
but even them, they were very like forward-thinking hip hop electronic artists
for sure.
You know? So
like they did that, and then once it got further, like they were like, oh, let's mix it with the synthwave type deal.
Yeah.
So like now we have a lot of artists like Bad Snacks or In Love with the Ghost, who are very, very electronic,
right?
But they still are kind of in that lo-fi,
like hip hop
skate.
Yeah.
Toki
Monster too, in a way. You think? She's
think
not as lo-fi, but she's in between
I'll
genres.
Put Korean
I would say
closer to lo-fi than Toki
I met
Monster.
her someone on her team. I don't think that's how you pronounce her name, but
I swear I read it was.
I don't know. Maybe he didn't know what he was talking about, but
Quirion.
It's like QU for the people listening. It's like QUI.
No, QRION. Yeah,
really incredible artist on like Anjuna Deep and killing that game.
Yeah, no, she's crazy. I mean, like, she has a song. You know, honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, 80% of her songs, I actually don't dig that much. But there's one song that's more like energetic that I really like. But the main song that I'm just like, it's one of the best songs I heard last year.
Yeah.
Which was I texted you at 4 a.m.
I think I've heard that one.
That song, it makes you feel nostalgic.
Yeah.
And like that's almost what we were talking about a second ago about how being more honest and more pure is like becoming more of a thing, because like if you were just somebody who was making mindless electronic music or something like that, you wouldn't be able to craft a song that makes you feel something separate. Like if you read the title, you're like, you can feel how sad this person is.
Sure.
Texting somebody at 4 a.m. or getting a text from somebody at 4 a.m. Maybe they're missing them. Or
Right.
But then just due to the sounds itself, you could relate to something completely different.
Yeah.
Like a lust for your childhood or like whatever it is, you know?
Right.
Like it's just like music like that, I think, is becoming more popular.
It's the most I think it's the most emotionally engaging too. Like
for sure.
Connecting to that nostalgia. And I think that's why Porter really accelerated in like 2014. That was what it was all about.
Yeah.
I also think that realness that you're discussing as like an artist, or like that ability to capture nostalgia transcends genre as well.
Yeah.
Like in that like you can have a big pop song or like a really produced song, and if the artist is still true to themselves, you can tell that it's it still has that.
The way I
weight.
look at it, which is like, it's gonna sound stupid, but what I look at it is like the proper way to do Flow Rida. Is how I look at it, because the thing is, the reason why Flow Rida was so popular was because he would sample songs that everybody already knew, but they were just old enough to where you probably don't remember them, so that when you hear a song, you're like, man, this just feels good. And then when you find out what
that's such an anomaly to me.
Yeah, he shouldn't exist.
Well, it's not just Flow Rida. It's like a lot of artists in the mid 2000s did that. He was
Black Eyed Peas did
obvious,
it as
like,
well, right?
Yeah, Black Eyed Peas did it. Like Pitbull did it.
Yeah, Pitbull still does it, I think.
There's a handful of artists that did it, and it's an interesting concept because you're I guess latching on to the nostalgia you have of the original song.
Yeah.
In a way that feels kind of cheap though to me.
Yeah.
Whereas like you're basically using the nostalgia somebody has for like whatever song to help elevate the song.
Yeah.
Granted, I mean, like, it is cool in its own way though.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, there's like a difference. Like I feel like with Black Eyed Peas or like with Pitbull or like with Flow Rida, I feel like a lot of that was like, as you're saying, you're using it as a game. Like you're like kind of cheating away into a system. Now,
I don't want to say like that's 100% what they were doing. They may have been just they really like the song, but potentially, yeah.
So
yeah,
most likely, right? And like, but then you get people like a lot of lo-fi artists, like like a lot of lo-fi artists. They do that. Like they would take like a clip out of like an anime,
yeah,
or take like a chord progression from an anime and put it over these beats and make it more like nostalgic sounding, so that you're just like, oh man, I really miss those days, playing the N64 in the basement, or like.
But to me, like,
hits better.
Yeah,
I think
to me that's in line more with sampling though.
Yeah.
Whereas like like Biggie and those guys, they sampled bits from previous works, but it's not like the entire arrangement. Yeah. Whereas like Flo Rida or like those kind of artists would take the entire song, rewrite the whole song basically the same way, and then put like a rap verse on it, Yeah. And that to me is like the difference.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's like so many tiers to it. 'Cause like obviously there's also interpolation.
Right. Like that, or covers.
It's literally like the hardest thing to explain to Becca, to my girlfriend about is interpolating versus sampling. But
what do you mean? Like
she doesn't understand the difference.
So like explain the difference for the listeners.
Oh, okay. So pretty much like sampling is like, I have a song and you're like, hey, I like that, I'm gonna take that and put it in my song. Interpolating is being like, hey, I like how you did in your song, I'm gonna re-sing it or I'm gonna replay it. That's
like cover style.
Yeah, or like I'm gonna take your melody but I'm gonna sing different lyrics on it,
right,
on the same melody. Like that's interpolating. That's like for example, that Fall Out Boy song Centuries, that do 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 do. Everybody thought this was a sample. That's an interpolation, actually. They got
it's
a
like
different
an original
singer.
idea.
Yeah, it's from Tom's Diner by, I don't remember her name, but they took that do 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 or whatever, and they got a different singer to sing it. So it's an interpolation. And Fall Out Boy even interpolated themselves on some songs, but that's a whole other thing.
Fall Out Boy is an interesting
they're in a weird place now.
Story. But, talk about like nostalgia.
Yeah. So on the topic of nostalgia, to the main thing we're supposed to be talking about, which is our upbringing.
Yeah.
I was not born to a creative family. My dad counts crops. He grew up on the farm. And my mom was in the Air Force and now runs a business for nutrition. So I was not in a creative family, but somehow I want to be an artist. Then I want to be a musician for the past like 8 years, and my brother's a graphic designer. So I don't know how we ended up being
I don't know
creative.
how you guys became like extremely creative. Your brother's a very talented graphic designer, and you're like doing music and design and all sorts of things. That's very fascinating. I never thought about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, my dad swears that I got it from him, but my dad only granted, it's a talent in and of itself. My dad knows about like 2 like incredibly long and complicated piano pieces.
Nice.
And I'm sure he could still do them to this day. But I mean, outside of that, my dad's not musically gifted. My mom, I don't think, has ever touched an instrument.
Right.
So it's just, we just went that way for some reason. Maybe it's the whole concept of sheltering in a way, like where like it's just kind of like sometimes you do the opposite of what your
parents
do,
right?
Yeah, because like sometimes you could totally go there because you have so much access to it. It's like, oh,
that's kind of my story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's like because your mom was listening to like club music.
We'll go into my story in a minute. But.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah. So we didn't really have any of that around the house. If there was any music playing around my house growing up, it was gospel. It was like funk and R&B, like older
jazz, a little bit.
Jazz mainly from my dad.
I remember distinctly the gospel, R&B, and jazz, like when we were like 6 or 7. in the car.
My mom, it was my mom and dad mainly gospel, but my mom specifically was gospel, like stuff like Earth, Wind and Fire, Isley Brothers, and stuff like that. Yeah. And then my dad was gospel, and then when he drove, it was entirely Watercolors XL.
Yeah.
And
that's a throwback.
The one that we were thinking about the other day, the smooth
95.9 or something.
Whatever the numbers were.
It was this jazz station in DC, if you're familiar. let us know in the comments.
Yeah, but
it was definitely like a great station.
It was a great jingle too, which is why I'm upset.
It's like something 0.5.
Smooth,
105.9.
That sounds right.
I think that is it.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was pretty much all I grew up around. When my parents weren't around, I wanted to listen to punk rock pretty much. Like,
sure.
That's what I gravitated towards.
That is like, yeah, I can see that. Like your focus towards the creative arts is like based on that lack of thereof.
Yeah, exactly.
In your upbringing.
And I think that in a weird way, like I feel like what I grew up around is having almost like a roundabout type thing, because I grew up on punk rock and I mainly listened to that. I got a little bit into like pop and the DJ stuff with like Daft Punk and stuff like that.
We had a phase of that for sure.
Yeah, that was disgusting. But I mean, Daft Punk's great. Punk's great. But Black Eyed Peas, I don't know.
Yeah, Black Eyed Peas was a bit
and
weird.
Recovery Eminem, I don't know.
Yeah.
But don't know
how that happened.
That was just what it was. But
I feel like when you're 10 or whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's like you can't judge yourself for your music taste then. But as
no offense to Eminem listeners.
Yeah. I mean, he's passing now.
He's got some good stuff now.
Yeah, but so I gravitated towards punk rock, like a lot of like Blink-182 and like Fall Out Boy, especially
Panic at the Disco.
Paramore. Like the phrase isn't fully punk rock. Like that's more like pop rock type stuff. But yeah, Paramore a lot.
Yeah.
And Flyleaf and Evanescence and all that stuff. So I was really into that scene. And I grew up around Nirvana, but I didn't really rediscover them until a few
later
years
on.
ago,
and now they're like your favorite.
Like, now they're like they're up there. And like Foo Fighters is
obviously
like one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah.
So like that was just kind of my scene. It was almost like a rebellion in a way.
And then later into like emo and alternative, right?
Exactly. And then emo became my entire world, like Owen Into It Over It and like stuff
American
like that.
football.
That was everything to me. And it still is,
Right.
But like, and now, and I grew up around Japanese music because I used to really like anime and stuff like that. But like, as I started getting more into like the actual culture of Japanese culture or whatever, I started kind of going away from anime a lot more. But I still did like the music. And what I was saying about the roundabout thing that's interesting is that like now I'm starting to realize that like majority of Japanese music is jazz based. And
definitely, it permeates the culture there for music.
Exactly. I mean, it comes from World War II or whatever.
I don't know the history on it.
Yeah, because that was like the music of choice during that rough period. Was jazz. So I think just from then on, like Japan's been really into jazz, and that was kind of like their escape.
Also, I would say like precision, like that's a very big thing in Japanese culture. Is like
very big.
Mastering a craft.
Yes.
And jazz to me is like classical and jazz are like the ultimate like skill-based music.
Yes.
But jazz is more applicable to modern music.
Now, but this is where I differentiate the two. I feel like classical is like I perfected my craft and I'm going to do things perfectly, right?
Right.
Jazz is like the definition of learn everything you can and then throw it out the window. That's what jazz is the definition of, because like you're going to learn every single chord, every single swing, every single way to slap the bass with jazz or whatever. But like the moment you get to that level of proficiency, it's just balls to the wall at that point.
Right. I think that is jazz. Like it's classical and jazz. I actually heard this from a jazz instrumentalist named Chris Bodie. I saw him in concert a few years ago. And his thing was like, when you're in school, you basically study all the same stuff until you get to like a university level. It might not be even the first year. And then you have a split point where half the people will go to classical and half will go to jazz. Because jazz is like jazz is like it's more theoretical.
Like
it's
Adam
more
Neely said that or something.
He may have. I love Adam. But jazz is like that more theoretical and forward pushing thing. Not that classical can't be. But jazz is it's more loose and it's more you can adjust it and it's more malleable, I guess. And classical is more like you write the thing and you have to play it like to the T, and that's where the skill of classical is. Whereas jazz, it's more, I guess, like a studio jazz player will obviously play the score 100%.
Yeah, but
I think the composers are a little bit more lenient. I don't know.
Well, I think so. I think like with classical music is that, like as you said, the malleable ness of it or whatever. Because with classical, it's like kind of like you get the sheet music, you do that. If you're gonna write your own music, you write the sheet music, you do it.
Right.
But with jazz, I feel like jazz has so many different crossovers. Like jazz works so well by itself, but you can put the like Dave Grohl learned how to play drums from jazz.
Sure.
Like I mean Rush records too, but like jazz, you know, and you know a lot of the Japanese artists I listen to are rock artists, but you hear the jazz influence. Yeah. So like as you said, jazz is more malleable. Like
I think it is more applicable too.
Exactly. Like classical music, yes, there's key changes, yes, there's these things. But like jazz is so insane that you can have 5 key changes.
I don't know, like
and like 5.
I'm sure there's classical pieces that do it
for sure, but I think it's just so common in jazz. Like, it's like,
and there are definitely like jazz chords that would be looked down upon in a classical score.
Exactly, you don't most like half of jazz chords are like 1 7th chords, but 2 like chords that I don't know the official name, but like where the notes are literally right next to each other.
It's like suspended chords or like ninths
and that just sounds super wonky.
It does sound super wonky, but it's like the context they use it in is tight.
Works. Yeah. So yeah, like I feel like that was kind of the roundabout thing where I ended up back liking more jazz stuff, and then obviously like lo-fi hip hop is very jazzy as well, and then. As far as
I think just technically more interesting music than the normal pop.
Exactly.
Like emo in and of itself or math rock is very
super jazz.
Technical.
Super jazz.
And does have that jazz influence.
Super jazz. Like, I mean, if you listen to any like American football song,
right.
like, you can hear the jazz influence there.
Yeah.
It's literally just sad jazz with guitars. Like, that's literally what it is. I mean, like, there's guitars in jazz, but it's mainly piano based and like, you know, like trumpets, sax. Bass.
And the instrumentation's more interesting than like pop punk too.
Exactly. Yeah. So I ended up back with the jazz thing, which is like a loop or whatever. But then when it comes to gospel, I ended up joining the choir in high school.
Yeah.
And ever since then, like I've been obsessed with harmonies. Like I very much look at the voice very similarly as to like how Kanye looks at things, because even though like I'm not a huge fan of my voice personally. Right. I don't think I'm the best singer ever. I don't like, even if I think I have like objectively I have a good range. Right. But I think as far as my tone, I'm not a huge fan of. Right. Sometimes I like the way I sing. Sometimes I don't. But that's why I think I started obsessing over harmonies and ways to manipulate the voice, because it's
a very powerful instrument.
Yeah, like you don't have to just sing one melody. Like you can have chords on top of that. You can put a vocoder on it. You can distort it. You can put a chorus on it. You can do all these things.
It's very also dynamic in like how you sing. Like, do you use breath? Do you use like chest?
Exactly.
That's a very like Jacob Collier philosophy.
Yeah. So I kind of like I understand. Granted, I don't listen to it on my own time. But I do definitely understand the appeal of gospel way more than I ever did when I was younger.
It's funny how it's making its way back around in a way.
Kanye.
Into pop music though, but like not just Kanye. Like
no, I'm saying like Kanye is the reason.
Oh, Kanye is definitely a big advocate of it. But I think like even in like electronic music, like the Madian album is very like neo soul.
Kanye.
Yeah.
Like
I can absolutely see the Kanye.
Like I really think that like Kanye like. And I had this conversation with somebody else, is that even if you don't think Kanye's a great rapper, which I don't think he's a great rapper.
Right.
I mean, he says dumb stuff all the time. I don't think he's a technically great rapper. But the thing is...
like sheer lyricism.
Yeah, he's not great. But the thing is that his influence on culture is so insane that we wouldn't have Chance the Rapper. We wouldn't have Amine. We wouldn't have Tyler the Creator. We wouldn't have Brockhampton. We wouldn't have any of Boney Bear's new stuff. We wouldn't have, again, we probably wouldn't have Madion's new album.
Sure.
Like there's so much that Kanye has done for the culture in general.
That's what people don't understand, I think, about Kanye, is that he's not afraid to do anything.
Yeah.
Like his music.
You could all envy that. Like I think.
Absolutely. Some people I don't think get it.
Yeah.
Because it is like very different and forward thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
people are like, that 808 is trash or whatever, but like you can tell that he did that on purpose, and it's
like all the lights, those drums should not work.
Right.
But you could write an essay on why they do work.
And like his whole arrangements sometimes are vocals, you know, like that's crazy. And so incredibly inspiring for like creative people. So when people like don't understand that, it's kind of frustrating to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's because of his rapping. I think because his rapping is so all over the place and not even good a lot of the times, that like people don't focus on all the other stuff that he's doing. Like a big reason why I think he dumbs down his lyrics is because everything else is so intricate. That he's like, I don't want to hit you with like a Kendrick verse like on this, you know.
Yeah, it's also like when people see an ego, they automatically try to shoot it down.
Yeah, exactly.
And Kanye definitely does have an ego, but I think it's justified.
I think it's justified, but I think it's also slightly projecting because I don't think he's as confident as he tries to.
Absolutely.
Like, no, I think he second guesses himself all the time.
You can tell by his newest records.
Yeah, I mean, and again, looping back to the whole loop thing and like my inspiration is that like, and something that also goes along with the whole Kanye thing is that like me and my mom talk about Kanye often. Yeah. My mom is not somebody that keeps up with like current stuff.
Right.
And she knows who Kanye is, and she's watched interviews of Kanye, and she was like, you know, I know a lot of people are talking bad about Kanye, but I support him now. And I'm like, why do you support Kanye? She was like, because in your 22 years, I never thought I would catch you listening to gospel music on your own.
Yeah.
And to see that Kanye did that is crazy. So like, that's when I further realized that like Kanye's influence is way bigger than we could ever understand. Because I would never go out of my way to listen to gospel music.
Right, like gospel's just one example of that too.
I do,
like
because Kanye does it. And and it's not like a sheep thing.
Right.
Because I know that like some people would be like, oh, you're just a sheep. You like everything. But the thing is, the way he approaches everything has such a subtle like way of, I don't know, just making it cool, just making it incredible.
100%. And I think the other thing is like, it's not just gospel, it's other things too. Like he did like collaborations with Daft Punk.
Yeah.
He did like that one song with Jamie Foxx. It's like a interpolation of an old folk song. I think it's Gold Digger.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I was like,
and then like he did things with like, you know, Chris Martin from Coldplay and stuff. Like he's trying to expand the mind of his listeners. And I think that's what's cool about Kanye.
If this isn't the biggest example of how crazy Kanye is that he literally has a song that has this incredibly huge, crazy, like almost reggae, like Afro tone breakdown, like just huge. Yeah. And it's this huge, like electronic type sounding song with vocal guests from Bon Iver and Chief Keef.
Right.
Well, who does that?
It's such a crazy
thing. Who does
thing.
that?
Right.
Like, so it's just like, that's kind of like what I'm saying is that like, I think even though I didn't get into Kanye till relatively recently, like obviously everybody grew up with Kanye.
We grew up with Kanye, then we went through a period of disliking Kanye.
Yes.
And then now, like as intellectual musicians, we've fallen in love with
intellectuals,
Kanye. I think so. Like,
no, for sure.
I think forward-thinking musicians will all appreciate Kanye West.
No, for sure. If you really care about music, you will try to understand Kanye West. Like, I think you're really missing out on music as a whole if you're not paying attention to Kanye West.
And if you're listening and you haven't, like, maybe reconsider and listen to his his newest stuff, because it is very interesting when you look at it objectively and not like in the context of something else.
It's
like you can't compare Kanye stuff to like, you know, modern hip hop, because then it's like, oh, this is weird.
It's
like
insane.
that's what's appealing about Kanye.
And I think part of his issue is one, the ego thing, but then like also I think a lot of people, and obviously the rapping thing, but also I think a big thing is that like people want to discredit people for sampling, and people want to be like, oh, you're not a real musician because you just take everybody else's work. But the thing is that a big part of making good music is knowing what works. Sure. And the thing is with Kanye is that he can take something like a slave song, mix it with like a song that came out in 2010, an electronic song, and then mix it with like a 60s rock song, and then end off with like a soul sample from the 70s. Or just
like an all voice, like.
Exactly. Yeah. And then all have it with Japanese taiko drums. And
exactly.
Then, like, that level of thinking is not like nobody else can get there.
But maybe it's not like thought. It's just like he lacks the fear of trying like weird things.
Completely, because I fear everything. Whenever I'm going to work on something, I fear that it's not going to be good as the last song, or I fear that what if I can't make this sample work?
Right.
Or what if I think all these things, like it really feels like Kanye walks into a place and just puts anything together that he wants.
Agreed, and that's I think that's the appeal of Kanye West. But rather than talk about Kanye West for the entirety of the episode, because we could do this. What were we like?
Oh yeah. So pretty much like the music I do now, it's definitely not gospel and it's definitely not jazz. But considering that I do a lot more Japanese centric music and doing lo-fi hip hop and stuff like that, I think I'm getting more into the realm that I was kind of raised up on, because I barely even touch punk rock anymore. It's almost too easy for me.
But I think it's in your DNA in that it's gonna permeate through whatever you make.
No, for sure. I mean, I'd love to make an entirely vocal, like entirely gospel album or whatever. Yeah. Like, I mean, I'd love to do like a whole like beat tape where I'm just, like chopping gospel samples like Kanye.
Right.
Like, I would love to do those sort of things. Like, so, like I definitely have like gone back a lot to what I was raised on in some way, shape, or form.
I think that I forget what the statistic is, but it's like if the music you love the most and the music that influences you the most is like the music you were raised on from like age 10 to 15 or something.
Yeah.
I forget the exact date on that.
Yeah.
But like you constantly are revisiting that part of your life, or like the things you're nostalgic about when you're a child.
Yeah.
And that comes out like later in your years. So maybe that's what it is, because I'm starting to find that myself.
Yeah.
With like the Beatles and like Pink Floyd and stuff, I'm getting much more
dad from, right?
Interested in that stuff. Yeah, I've always been. I guess it's as good a time as any to tell about my history. I've always been into that like new wave electronic stuff. My mother was into like the new wave movement with Depeche Mode and all of them. I did not know that
till recently.
Yeah. Well, now you do. Them, and then like Billy Idol and Madonna, even before she was like, pop star. And then my dad was like, my dad's very musically eclectic. He'll listen to anything from like the 20s to like 1990. Like he's into Nirvana too, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I guess fun fact.
Huh.
But I grew up on a lot of different music, from like the Beatles to Frank Sinatra to like Pink Floyd and the new wave stuff my mom was listening to. And that kind of became like, I guess, the DNA of what I write. There's a lot of like harmonies. There's a lot of like counter melody stuff, which is like that 80s, 70s kind of influence. Mm-hmm. But it's got that electronic tone that the modern stuff has, I guess. I discovered, I started writing music when I was like 10 or 11 or whatever. Similar time, I guess, maybe a little bit longer than you.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Within a few years, we were both in like band in school and stuff too. Yeah. So we do have some music background.
Yeah, whenever 9th grade was, that's when I started doing music, mainly outside of piano lessons.
But I started writing music, I think, right as I got into middle school, or maybe like midway through middle school.
Like right before you started a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
right before
I started my YouTube channel, because I started my YouTube channel because I think one of our friends wanted a DJ tutorial. So I made the DJ tutorial. It went viral somehow, and that eventually evolved into, music production.
Yeah.
And that's why I do Ableton tutorials today. But I was doing that, and then I really got into Deadmau5. Well, we had a spat with Daft Punk.
Yeah. So I think that was like the first catalyst.
Daft Punk was probably it. We had this friend named Will, who I think he burned us like copies of the whole Daft Punk discography. Was it for
one of us each, or did we have to share the one?
I think we just shared it. Like,
I think that's what it was.
We ripped it, both of us, or something.
Do you have it now?
I have no idea where it is.
I might have it.
If you still have it, that'd be tight.
Because
that would be like the starting point of like a lot of our music creation.
I have it somewhere. I might have actually sold it or threw it away.
Sold the copies of...
I doubt it, but I don't know what I would have done with it.
I would imagine you may have thrown it away.
Because that's my style, but
I mean, it's like it was like literally like bootleg copies of the Daft Punk discography. Yeah, and it's just like what I think we
it was max like 08.
Remember we did that Daft Punk thing at our birthday party?
Oh God, where you made the mask? And
Yeah, but like what year was that?
I think we're 13.
Okay, so there you go. So we had to have known of them at least at like 12.
Yeah, because we were huge fans.
So I got into Daft Punk. Well, we got into Daft Punk around that time period, and then that eventually evolved into like Justice and Deadmau5.
Yeah.
And when I found Deadmau5, that was like the big that was what I latched onto, where you latched onto like Fall Out Boy, right?
Like that, yeah.
So that was like when we started to go separate ways.
It was like we were both super Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah, that was a
Recovery
cringy time. You're right.
And Daft Punk, and then once you found Deadmau5, it just completely
Deadmau5 for me, and then you went the other way.
Yeah,
like
and I was Fall Out Boy, and then it was over.
I mean, granted, we had crossover
For sure.
Like we listened to some of each other's stuff. Like
we both love Panic.
It was a brief spat with like Skrillex and stuff.
Yeah.
Panic, Paramore.
Yeah, Paramore for sure.
Paramore transcends everything.
I don't know if you remember. Do you remember when I had gotten Brand New Eyes on CD?
I do remember.
And I had waited to listen to it so you could listen to it, and you came over and listened to it. Yeah.
But yeah, I got into music that way, and I fell in love with Deadmau5, and then I went that route, and you guys probably know that's like where I am now, making electronic music in that way. But I do have that DNA of like traditional music. I think I push that like harmony, and I push the counter melody more than like the average electronic musician. Yeah,
for sure.
Songwriting too.
I mean that's why like I like you more than just you being my friend. Like
right.
Actually like your music. Like I think if I
like your music too.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I totally hear all that in there. I mean, like I think your stuff has gotten progressively sadder too. Like that's also an appeal.
I unintentionally do that though. I think maybe as I grow older, it's becoming more mature themes, and it's not as like video gamey melodies anymore.
Yeah, I think it was no, not I think the lead singer of like Depeche Mode or whatever. I was reading like Wiki because I had heard that song People Are People, and I was like, I love this band. I don't care whatever else they were like. This song is it. And I was reading an interview, and he said like, we write songs that are a little hopeful, but the thing is that pure happiness is just unrealistic.
Right.
Like it's just like it doesn't need to be sad all the time. Like we don't want to be like melodramatic, but it's just like sadness is just way more realistic, and like things that are like kind of middle of the road, or things that are like sad but a little bit hopeful, like that's
melancholic.
Melancholic. That's realistic. Like pure happiness. Like I want to party all night.
It's unrealistic. Yeah.
It's just not.
And it's good for like particular times of your life, but for the majority of the time, you're going to engage more with nostalgic, melancholic music.
Exactly.
It is more relatable to most people.
Exactly. I mean, it's almost used as a trick nowadays to some degree, because people realize that.
Like writing sad music is...
which is annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even though like people like Lil Peep or XXXTentacion, like those were really damaged people.
Right.
Of course. But I think like people like them, I think a lot of the times they didn't fully write compelling sad music.
Right.
I even though I liked X, I can't really listen to him anymore because I kind of like gotten out of the phase of that. But I never really like, it didn't feel like real sadness to me.
Yeah.
Like, like when I hear like something like American Football, like Owen or whatever, or Into It Over It, when I hear stuff like that, like I'm like, oh my God, I felt that way. Or like, this is like so real, it's sad, like, or whatever. But with that sort of stuff, I'm just like, okay, I don't care that you want to kill yourself because a girl broke up with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that doesn't garner.
I definitely can see that.
You know what I mean? Like that doesn't.
I'm sure there are people that it did connect with.
I mean, when you're young, of course.
Right.
That's the world to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just like, but I just feel like to some degree, again, I think it's a little bit.
Well, I mean, we don't know what he was actually talking about, but
and I know they were going through stuff beside that. Maybe that was just their way of writing,
right?
Just like they wanted to maybe make it seem more simple than what it actually is. Because I know X had a lot of problems with his family, and a lot of other stuff. So it's like I don't know what the deal is with that. I mean, we'll never get the answers. Obviously, they both passed.
Rest in peace.
But it's just like I feel like there's a lot of sadness that's being marketed on a lot, and I'm not saying that they did that, but there's a lot of people that do that. They're just sad for the pay,
or like pop songs that are obviously written to be
Exactly, like cash grabs off of
onto
sadness.
the sad emotion. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, no.
Well,
just be real.
mean, sad music in general is more, like we just discussed, it's more easy to latch onto.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So like, I get why you'd want to cash out on that, but the thing is that like reality's sad. You don't have to chase sadness.
Yeah.
You just kind of got to talk about reality.
Right.
Like my mom told me that my music's sad at one point, and like, yeah, it is. But thing is, like 90% of my music isn't like, oh, I'm sad or I hate myself. Majority of my music is actually just like, this is the reality, and that's just what it is.
Sure.
And if it sounds sad, yeah, because reality's sad. You know, so like that's kind of where
that's the kind of stuff I'm drawn to anyway.
Yeah,
like storytelling and like actually conveying what the writer is feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Although pop has its place too. Like I
sure.
can appreciate that idea of like, it would be exciting to have like 5 people in a room that are really talented and write a song that, you know, you're just trying to write something great as a challenge, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know.
Yeah, there's just a time. Yeah, time and place for everything, I think. But yeah. So, anyways, back to your upbringing. That was a tangent.
Well, that's like essentially it. I mean, like I
grew
up in a musical household. My dad taught guitar for a while. My mom was into electronic music.
Yep.
So like it was bound to happen. I think I had like the opposite effect. So like where you were more. Your family is not as creative, and that's what forced your creativity. Yeah. My family is overwhelmingly creative, and it was an inevitability of creativity.
Yeah, because your mom also does graphic design too. On top of that,
she's a designer by trade, and then you know, crafts and all that when we were younger. And my dad, you know, music, but also like art and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so
just talking with your dad is always a trip.
Eclectic, artistic guy. I want to do a podcast with him sometime. That'd be interesting.
That'll be. You probably have to make that 2 hours to be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like your dad's done a lot. He's an interesting dude.
The other topic of discussion we had preconceived is like this.
Yeah, we don't want to tangent too much.
Does moving to LA really help you as a creative person? I think both like from a statistic, like objective music industry thing, and just like your mentality as a person, you know. What do you think? Like, because we've both gone through like the same thing, obviously in different times and different ways.
You're here 2 years before me.
Yeah, but we've both make the move to. I think we can simplify this to like, does moving to like a city?
Yeah, like LA, New York,
Chicago, what have you?
Yeah.
Does
Nashville.
that influence you creatively and actually benefit you in the long run? Because I know a lot of people are like hesitant to move, but a lot of people are also like, moving there is gonna make everything great. Yeah.
So there's a point in time where it has to break even. I think that's where it's at. Like, so you can't expect to show up in LA, show up to Nashville, show up to New York, whatever, to be like, I'm just gonna do what I was doing before I moved here, and I'm gonna make it. That's not how it works. Right. The thing is, there's still the internet. So you could be a no-name town, Mississippi or Rhode Island or whatever. I don't know. But you could be from there, and you could be huge just because of the internet.
Right.
So
Porter Robinson's going back to Porter again. He's from like some freaking South Carolina or something.
No, he's Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, pretty close to where I went to school.
Oh, amazing.
I know. But yeah, so he's from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and he's super successful. He still doesn't live in LA. He's not planning on it probably ever.
Yeah.
So for that could happen, right? But the cool thing about LA, there are a lot of people that move here. Like, for example, like Logic. Yeah. He made a huge name for himself in can never remember where in Maryland. Gaithersburg, Maryland. Yeah. He made a huge name for himself there. And then he moved to LA, and now he still lives in LA. And for people like that, like, that's a good decision, obviously, but he was already making it. Now, if you're on the rise like we are and you want to move somewhere, it's a great place to meet people because everybody is here.
That is true.
Everybody's here. If you want to meet people, if you want to get connections, you want to be friends with people who are relevant, here is it's the best place.
LA, Nashville for music, and then like New York for like Broadway and film and that sort of stuff.
And like I don't work there anymore, but I worked at a restaurant where literally every day famous people will come in. Like Jeff Goldblum was a regular. Sure. I mean, like Wale has come in,
Right.
FK Twigs has come in, Shia LaBeouf has come in. Like anybody you can name has probably been in that restaurant just because it's near Hollywood. And stuff like that, like Butch Vig came in, and that was a huge moment
That's
for
crazy.
me, obviously.
Yeah.
If you don't know, Butch Vig made the Nirvana records, and he made a couple Foo Fighters records.
That's insane.
So he's just insane, and he does the band Garbage, if you know Garbage. But yeah, you can meet just about anybody in LA, and that's what's really, really cool
you
about
could
it.
like walk down the street and see
And just see like
whoever.
5 famous people.
Right.
I mean, like a YouTuber that
Right.
my girlfriend's super into now. She has come into that restaurant multiple times. So
There
like
you
when
go.
I saw her watching, I was like, oh my God, she's a regular. You know, like, so like it's a great place to meet people, no doubt. If you're extroverted, if you like being social, I think LA is the best place to be. But if you're like me, where you're a little more introverted, you don't like talking to people much. There's but so much it could do to you for you. You know,
Sure.
like, I mean, like I could push myself sometimes, but for the most part, I don't put myself out there. So
I think, yeah, like if that's important to talk about too,
Yeah.
because not everyone is going to be going to every show and meeting everyone.
Exactly,
If
yeah.
you're not an extrovert, the benefits of LA start to, at least in that sense, start to go down. Like if
Yeah.
you're not actively talking to everybody and meeting everyone, then LA is not as important. But if you are like that, then you can totally go out every night and meet people, and
Exactly.
you have a very good chance of
easily.
meeting.
Isn't that what London did?
Yeah, my friend Justin London, he was just like into the rock stuff, and he just kind of goes out and about and meets people, and now he knows everybody, and and that's like a lot of people in LA. Like that's not an uncommon thing. Whereas like if you're not an extrovert, or if you're not good at least putting that facade on, it might not be as beneficial.
Yeah,
Like,
and I can, but I need to weigh in. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you
like
can't
if
just
you know
jump into a
them,
conversation.
I can like be
Right.
like, okay, I could be a little more
I'm the
extroverted
same
here.
way as an introvert too.
Exactly, but if you're just like throw me in a room with a bunch of like execs and like
Right.
musicians, I'm not gonna know.
Some
what to
people
do.
can though.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of people that being in LA would really benefit.
For sure.
But I think that it is important to know your stuff too.
Yeah.
Like you can be in a room with the most famous people in the world. If you don't have a product that's good, or like you don't know what you're doing, you're just gonna make a fool of yourself. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
That's true too.
yeah, or just another random example of just how congested it is with like famous people.
Yeah.
We're at a restaurant waiting for like an indie rock show, and Reggie Watts comes in.
Yeah, that was right. That's right. That's right.
Like Reggie Watts. Like if
So,
you
like-
know, like
Yeah, bottom line is like that's not uncommon here in LA,
Yeah,
and that
it's-
is like the magic of LA.
yeah.
On a sheer like objective thing, and there's also like the mindset change. I think like LA is always sunny. It's always beautiful here. There's a lot of positive vibes in this
For
city.
sure. For sure.
I don't know if that can be said about New York, but
Yeah.
like
just don't like New
there's
York,
also like for New York, it's like being in a big city environment with a lot of people might inspire you in the same way.
Yeah, that's
so there-
central inspiring.
it's not for me, but like some people that does, but like there's also that aspect of it too, like living in a city with a lot of people that are also creative
Yeah.
can also be good to your psyche.
But it could do the opposite
It
too.
can also.
Like, because I remember,
Right.
like, I've gotten used to it now. It doesn't bother me anymore, and I think it's more of a positive than a negative now. When I first got here, I hated that everybody was creative, because then I didn't feel special.
Sure.
Like, because in Maryland, it's like, you know what I mean?
Nobody
like,
does it.
Yeah,
Right.
like, everybody I went to high school with, like, again, like, no offense, I'm not trying to throw any shade or anything at anybody, but everybody we went to high school with, like, they're not doing anything big. They're just, you know, working like relatively
That's
normal
like
jobs.
most
and stuff like that.
suburban areas.
Yeah, so like that's kind of was the vibe there, but we were very much like we want to do things, we
things
want to
that
go
are
out
bigger
and
than
do
that,
things.
yeah.
So, and then once I moved here, like I was like, man, you know, like I'm the only one that made it out of my town. Like, you know, I'm trying to do all these big things, blah blah blah.
Right.
Like I felt like this god almost. But then I come here and then like
This
everybody's
city is
doing
full
it,
of people like that.
and like
yeah.
most of the people are doing it way better than me and seeing less success sometimes even, and I'm just like, oh my god, like this is like terrible.
It's a really hard city to make it in.
But now I've gotten used to it, and now I've learned that like it can kind of be an advantage to some degree. Like somebody I worked with who's a musician who is low key better than me, but he just invited me to some studio time.
Yeah.
And I got to be in the studio for the first time, like from 11 p.m. to like 5 a.m. Just drinking, smoking, making good music.
Right.
In a studio, and I've never been in a studio.
And also, like, when you have creative friends, it can influence your creativity too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and also,
like you or me, even, like, things that you do might inspire me, or vice versa, as far as what I'm working on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, so I think it's really it could be really cool in that place if you're down to work with people and you're down and you're okay with asking for help. Like, I think this is a really great place.
It is,
like, for sure. I mean. And
not to say that you can't make it elsewhere, though. That's like the point.
Yeah,
I think.
But it again depends because, like, for example, like, even though I haven't gotten any opportunities because a lot of the places I apply to prefer me to have a band.
Sure. It's a little harder when you're doing like alternative stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think if you did have a band, or like you were just a straight up DJ or what have you, I think getting shows around here can be very, very easy.
Easy, yeah.
Like, very, very easy. But
at the same time, though, there's a lot more competition too.
There's a lot more competition, but there's so many outlets.
More opportunity.
There's so many outlets. So, like, it's just like, if you're creative enough, you can definitely make it work. But again, in this day and age, 50% of your success is coming from the internet. Like, that's what it has to be.
More than 50%.
Yeah, probably way more than that. So
you have that grassroots, but most of it is online.
Yeah,
like, you hear about people online.
So yeah, like, if you really like, but at the same time, the good thing about being in LA and the internet is that if you, like, let's say you do Instagram ads and you market it to LA, and then you're from LA, like, you live in LA, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for you to do shows, a lot more for people to, like, know you and to have seen you and to, like, meet your fans and stuff like that because you're in that city that you're advertising to, which is, like, the biggest market.
That's true.
So that's another plus of living here, I think.
Right.
Like, I mean,
or
like,
any city.
Yeah, like that group of friends that I told you about that are fans of mine, like, they all live about an hour from here.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I ever wanted to, like, meet them or whatever, or if I ever had a show or something, like, they could probably be there. Right. While as if I was in Maryland, that couldn't happen.
Sure.
You know, like, so, like, yeah, this is like.
And people generally conglomerate towards big cities.
Yeah.
Like, for us, it would be DC.
Yeah.
We're close enough to it, but when you start to get out in the rural, middle of nowhere, people start to not know who you are anyway.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think,
like, your fans are probably within, like, an hour of a city.
Yeah. So, and then, like, I think even if I didn't really advertise towards LA, I think even before I moved here, my biggest market was LA.
Same.
As well. Yeah. Like, because LA just has such a diverse group of people.
It's a very rich musical culture, too.
Insane. Yeah. Like, just the culture in general. I mean,
in general.
Yeah, you could go to one club and it's electronic, and then another one it's like punk rock, and then like another one like
the same night too.
Exactly,
and
the same night.
On the same block, yeah.
You know, and like some of it is in abandoned warehouses, and some of it's in an old stock exchange building.
Exactly.
Or, you know, like whatever. I mean, and it's just like the opportunities you have here, like just to be able to pick up a bike off the street for $17 a month. Like everything's so accessible here.
Right.
Like everything.
I think that's a city thing.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like I feel.
Well, I'm just trying to keep it more grand scope than just LA.
For sure, like I'm sure, like New York has a lot of the similar vibes.
Right.
But I don't know. I just the culture here is really accessible, and I do very much support that. But it does also depend on your vibe. Like I think if you're very extroverted, very fast paced, maybe New York might be better for you. Right. Who knows? Like
absolutely,
because
New York's a bit stressful for me.
Yeah, things are a lot more chill here, and I'm more on the chill side. Right. I went to New York for a week, and I couldn't stand that entire week.
I've been there for a few days at a time, and it's just very stressful.
Yeah, I can't do it. Like
you really survive in New York. You don't like live there.
Yeah,
that's like a Casey Neistat quote, I think.
So that's why, like, I would love to talk to either musicians that moved to New York to make it work, or just people who just grew up there and love New York. I really would like to understand, because I
love the city when I visited, but I just get stressed out.
Yeah, like, because I'm not the type of person, I don't like hating on things. I don't like having a negative opinion about things. So I'd love to know the pluses about New York. I just only really have negatives. I have nothing good to say.
Last time you visited.
Yeah, I have nothing good to say about New York. So I just don't want to really say it, to be honest. I would just like to know the points.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people that feel that way about LA. I mean,
right.
like a lot of people are just like, no, LA is the worst place ever. And then they moved there and they're like, oh, it sucks. But then they went to the wrong part. Because I feel like if you don't, like if you're not like us where you're closer to downtown LA or something like that, like K-Town or whatever,
right?
Like you're not going to get a positive view of LA as much. If you live in Beverly Hills, you're going to get a very jaded view of what LA is like.
I think, I mean, regardless of where you do live, you're going to get a different perspective of the city.
But I feel like being in like...
We're very central.
Exactly.
In that we're close to Hollywood and downtown. So.
Exactly. So because of that, we get a piece of everything.
Right.
But if I
lived in the Valley, for example...
like Calabasas or San Francisco or something, like I might only get like one type.
That's a different city.
Yeah, I know.
You mean San Diego?
I don't know.
San
Either
Gabriel?
which way... I don't know.
I don't know, whichever. Yeah.
It's like you're gonna have different views depending on where you are.
Right.
But like being smack in the middle does help a lot. Like I think we also had that benefit of where we grew up in Bowie, Maryland too.
Right.
Where we were 30 minutes from Silver Spring, which is a really nice area. Then 30 minutes from Baltimore, which is very 50-50. Same from
and DC,
which
DC's
is
nicer, but
50-50 though.
There's parts of DC that are really bad.
Yeah, like for sure. Like where I went to concerts a lot, they weren't. They were like good areas, but again, similar. Like I think that's just cities in general. Because now I look back, it kind of reminds me of LA in a way where like you'll be in one area and it's super nice, and then you go like one block,
it's just a mess,
and it's just a mess. Like so, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just cities in general.
But yeah, in general, I think that moving to a city, notably LA, can be good for some people and not good for others. Just depends on who you are. As
just
a person.
Try to be close to everything. Like
that's true. If you do live in LA, if you try living in LA, try to get a full perspective of LA.
K-Town, downtown, like
and even
La Brea
if you don't
area,
live like in
like
this
that.
Explore. Explore.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't try to just stay in the same spot.
Filipino towns around here too.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Like it's just don't go to like Calabasas. Don't go to like.
Well, I mean, if you can move to Calabasas for free.
No. If you could afford Calabasas easily, or you get it for free, like go. Like
the bottom line is like explore, I think, and don't limit your perspective to only one area, because there's a lot more to cities than just that.
Yeah. No. I mean, for sure. I mean, like even just with like Julian, like I mean, there's been people I've been around that were his friends that may be from other places or more in his genre or whatever, and they like my music, they follow me, they support me and stuff like that, and like that's the kind of thing that I wouldn't have gotten in Maryland, because why would they go to Maryland? So it's little stuff like that. I mean, I just think everybody's here is such a huge advantage, but it could also be
there's also like the financial disadvantage.
That's a big thing.
Don't move to LA if you're not making any money and you're broke and you expect to like blow up.
Yeah, because you're gonna become another statistic.
That's not gonna work.
Like, because
you have to do it responsibly.
Yeah, you either got to move when you know that independently you could do fine, or if not, you got to look for a job, and that's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm working a minimum wage job. I quit that, another minimum wage job, and now I'm doing Postmates on top of that.
And I'm living independently, but very tight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's just you really got to pick your battles here. I mean, because like I'm always thinking about like, okay, I make about like $2,000 or something a month, right? And that's because the minimum wage here is higher.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
cost of living is also higher.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I go back to Maryland. If I were to make $2,000 a month, I could live in a house.
For sure.
Like I literally
property in 5 years.
I literally knew somebody that rented out like a 3-story house for, I think it was $2,400 a month.
Right.
And
you can have like 2 other people and you'd have like a full.
Exactly. And I'm paying like $1,250 for a studio.
I pay like $1,350.
So it's just like it's crazy how different it is.
Right.
Like I had to drop off a Postmates order. And there was a really nice apartment complex, and these people were looking at this like studio, and it was like $2,400.
It's crazy.
Like it's just like it's super expensive here, so you really gotta figure out how you are going to make money here. Do not expect to move here with $5,000 in your pocket and just to make it work. Because like,
I mean, if you have 5 Gs, you could probably.
I moved here with 5 Gs.
You could
probably. I only have $1K still there.
Well, I know, but like you found a job pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I think if you have that much of a blanket, you're okay. Don't move here broke and
for
expect
sure.
to find a job day one, because it's hard.
I would say minimum $3,000 is what I would say, minimum. But
I don't want to put like a number on it because some people's situations is different.
I mean, we live in one of the cheapest areas.
That's true.
In this, like in LA, so it's
that's true. I would say as a more general, like maybe like a few months worth of rent.
Yeah, exactly. Few months. So at least like you could maybe do the first month, be like you're gonna push everything and do everything you can, and then maybe the second month you could start looking for jobs, and by the third month you need one.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like maybe that's what you could do.
Also, just don't let your job become like your entire life.
Which is why I had to quit my last one.
Yeah,
because it was becoming my entire life.
Like you moved to LA to do what you want to do. Don't allow like your old habits to
exactly, because literally like when I moved here, I'm like, I'm never gonna get another job like Chipotle.
Yeah.
And I get it almost to the T, exactly the same. Stressing me out, like super busy place, way too much stuff to do all the time. I was staying from like 3. I think the hours were exactly the same. Yeah. Like 3 till 11:30. Just that like here I got out maybe an hour later, like closer to midnight. But like either which way, it's just like I had no time because I was always so tired. Like I would go to bed at 4 because I didn't do anything before work, and then I wake up at 10 or 11 and I have like 3 hours before work, and just cycle keeps going. But like now I put myself in a position where I have more days off, or I'm off no later than by 6.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I'd be off by like noon. Like, so like now I'm in that position where it's like, if I want to make extra money, I could do Postmates. If not, I can work on a YouTube channel. I can work on music.
Really
I
have
can study Japanese, you know,
balance that out. Otherwise you fall into just like being trapped in the same position you were in your previous city. If you do move into LA.
Exactly. Which is why we're doing this. If I still worked at the other place, we wouldn't
have time to do this.
We just wouldn't, because I'd always be working 3 to 11:30. And if you weren't free on one of the like 2 days I had, you know, and half the time, like Becca would want to do something one of those days. So it's just like, like now I just have so much more free time. I got most of my days off in the afternoon, and otherwise I just had the day off.
You're like prioritizing creative stuff
all
now.
the time. I've literally like made 2 videos in the sake of a couple days now because I have so much more time.
Subscribe to his YouTube channel.
Oh, Tatami Country. Yeah, that's me on everything. Description. Yeah, that's me on literally everything. So
I guess we can kind of transition this into the wrap up then.
Yeah, because I think it's almost an hour now.
It's a little over an hour, but that's fine.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so Tatami on everything.
Yeah, Tatami Country on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, probably Facebook too, but I don't touch that.
Yeah. And you know me, I'm Julian Gray on everything except for Instagram, which is Julian Gray Media. Yeah. And let me know if you guys like this new type of podcast format, and if you have any ideas for future topics for us to discuss, put it in the comment section below. If you're on Apple Podcast, then like tweet it to us or something.
Oh, and just a side note, Tatami Country is just like the name for everything. Like if you're looking for me on Apple Music or Spotify, it's just Tatami.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I'll put all the links to all of my stuff and his stuff in the description of both the podcast and the YouTube video.
Yeah.
And it's nice talking to you.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see you guys in the next episode.
In the next one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.